Welcome back to the Witching Hour Wagon. Today we have 4 Skinwalker stories. So let's get straight into it. Enjoy. Number 1. Don't get off the bus. Anybody that has been on the Navajo reservation has either probably heard of some creepy things or have experienced pretty creepy things, namely skinwalkers. I have only seen one. Here is my story. I come from a small town in northern Arizona that's sandwiched between the Coyote reservation to the north and the US's largest Navajo reservation to the south. My high school, being so small, always had to travel south about 5 to 10 hours one way to play another high school in any sport. This means that we traveled a lot on the Navajo reservation, and we also usually stayed at hotels when we would head out to play and come home in the morning. But this trip was a little bit different. I remember the basketball coach saying that the school didn't have enough money to put up the teams in a hotel that trip, so we were going to be on the road for a total of about 12 hours. I was the only male senior to play basketball that season. We had just got done playing our game and headed home on our bus. We were headed out, and it wasn't long, about 2 hours of driving, before we had entered the reservation. By this time, everyone was asleep, with it being about 2 in the morning. When we had crossed the reservation, I noticed the bus driver had sped up and was now going about 85 miles per hour. I thought this was a little weird because he never exceeded the speed limit, at least not in my high school career. For some reason, I couldn't fall asleep like the rest of my teammates, and I just sat at the back of the bus, staring out across the desolate desert landscape that was lit by the full moon. As I looked out, I could see a figure running towards the bus at an angle of pursuit and keeping up with the bus at 85 miles per hour. As the figure got closer, I saw that it was a humanoid form. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly like a human, only that the face was painted half black and half white, with glowing eyes. Glowing eyes like a rabbit's eyes reflecting light from a spotlight. I immediately thought, holy crap, it's a skinwalker. The skinwalker ran up to the edge of the road and just kept up pace with the bus, huddling sagebrush. After I made eye contact with this thing, I could not look away. It was as if something was holding my head and eyes in place. The skinwalker just smiled at me, this inhuman smile that went ear to ear, showing crooked, yellow-pointed teeth. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I was panicking through the whole ordeal. The skinwalker started to crumple down onto all fours, still keeping up with the bus. I could see his bones crack and reform. Hair started appearing all over the skinwalker's body, and in about 3 seconds was now a coyote, and it ran back into the desert, out of view. As soon as it was gone, I ran to onboard bathroom and puked a mixture of food and blood. I didn't want to tell anyone for fear they would think I was crazy. I told my Navajo friend. She told me that I needed to see the chief, who also happened to be a friend of mine, and get a blessing. I saw him the next school day, in the parking lot. He just came up to me and mumbled something in Navajo, while waving a feathered scepter-like thing, turned around, got in his truck, and drove away. To this day, I haven't seen another skinwalker. It might be due to the fact I moved away from the town and reservation, and if I do have to go south, I go around, way around. Number 2. An attack on a party van. Whenever my mom would take us on a road trip to her hometown on the Navajo reservation, I would occasionally ask her to tell me a Skinwalker story along the way. I remember every story she's told me was when we were driving through miles of nothing at night. Luckily, nothing ever happened to us during those drives. Anyways, this is one of those stories, and it came from my auntie. So my auntie and some of her friends used to party a lot back in the day. They would hop in a beaten down van, drive out to the boondocks, and just drink and have fun. Of course, this all took place on the Navajo reservation after sunset. On this particular night, that's what they were doing. Everything was going good, and one night, when all of a sudden they hear what sounds like rocks being thrown at their van. Everyone gets quiet as they wonder what the hell is going on. The sounds of the rocks being thrown stops, and then suddenly something jumps on top of the van roof. I should mention my family owned a white van that we would use for road trips because it had enough room for all my brothers and me. So imagine young me being told a story in a van. Terrifying. Everyone starts panicking as the realization sets in and hurry to lock all doors. My auntie jumps in the driver's seat and tries to start the engine. Of course, the beaten down van then refuses to start. Whatever is on the roof is still up there making banging noises. At this point, like it's jumping up and down. My auntie is freaking out when she then sees a hand with long nails reach over the roof and start scratching the windshield. At this point in the story, my mom would take one hand off the steering wheel and scratch the windshield to stimulate it. Then whatever was on the roof jumps off. Everyone is still freaking out, yelling at my auntie to start the van, and she keeps trying. That's when she sees the Skinwalker walk up to the driver's side window and stare at her just a few inches away. Well, that's when my auntie jumped in the back and started praying for her life. Minutes pass, and the Skinwalker appears to leave. My auntie hops back in the driver's seat and gets the van to start, and off they go. Number 3. A coyote walking on 2 legs. I was told the story once. My dad isn't a liar, so I know the story is true. So this was the very early 80s, and my sister, who lived in Toronto, came down to visit our parents for a weekend. She was staying at a friend's house, who loaned her a car so she could come out. After her visit, she left a little after 9 p.m. She got maybe 7 to 8 miles away when the car broke down. Thankfully, she broke down in front of a friend of the family's house. They let her in to call Dad, and Dad came to get her. The family said she could leave the car in their driveway for the night, and my sister decided to just stay at my parents' for the night. It was now a little after 10 p.m. and pitch black, late November, while my sister and Dad are driving back to the house, and they pass through a heavily wooded area. Out of nowhere, they hear this incredibly loud, inhuman scream that was heard over the engine, them talking on the radio. Dad slammed on the brakes, and they both started freaking out when suddenly a 6-foot-tall coyote walking on 2 legs with a black-white striped tail appeared on the side of the road, and proceeded to walk in front of the car. As soon as it passed, the same scream played again, only this time 10 times louder. Dad slammed on the accelerator, and they got out of there. It was never seen again. Number 4. This was no normal girl. This tale of terror comes all the way from Australia. While walking her dogs out in the Australian bush, a woman encountered a fearful sight. She was enjoying the trail when suddenly her 2 dogs started barking uncontrollably and becoming extremely agitated. Soon she saw what appeared to be a small female child, no older than 7. The child had her back to the woman, who was only a bit startled at first, as she believed the child was just part of a camping party. However, when the girl turned around, her eyes were lifeless and entirely black. Before the woman could make a break for it, the creature let out an ear-splitting howl and ran off into the bush, never to be seen again. She was left wondering if the child she saw was someone pulling a prank on her or if it was really a shape-shifting skinwalker. She may never know. This is it for today's episode of the Witching Hour Wagon. Let us know in the comments below which one was your favorite. And if you liked the video, press that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel to get more of these creepy stories. Also, if you have your own scary story, please send it to the email below. Thanks for tuning in. Be wary and take care, because something wicked is always on its way.